Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pearce. This is a US elections special, a bit of an update. I'm going to just talk about the hurricane, although there's so much I could talk about. I've got, if you look at the top of my browser, I've got all these different groups of tabs that each have like a million tabs in them. There's so much I've got lined up to talk to you about that it would take about 3 hours for me to remotely get through it. The polls are tightening. The Republicans are claiming the Democrats are panicking. There are some Democrats who are panicking. There are others who, like Michael Moore, saying Kamala Harris is easily going to win. The amount of female votes that are being undercounted, etc., etc. Then you've got real data coming in from places like Pennsylvania and early vote counts that look like the Democrats are really mobilized. Then you've got people claiming Jasmine Crockett saying that on the ground there is just so much more mobilization of these both paid for and volunteer groups doing grassroots work that they just far outnumber the Democrats, far outnumber the Republicans. And then there's poly market betting apps looking like Trump is now the favorite, and all sorts of claims within the margin of error. And if you look at the previous elections, then actually if they operate to the same error margin that the previous two general elections worked to, then Trump's going to get in. And other people saying, well, actually every single special election, every single election since basically Roe v. Wade has shown X, Y, and Z. And you've got the 2022 midterms, and actually they might skew the other way. And then you've got claims that there are going to be so many mobilized young voters who aren't really featuring on polls, and they will do X, Y, and Z. And then you've got sort of a leak of maybe 9% of Republican voters in some of the latest polls showing that they have, in fact, two polls. I think New York Times Siena poll and YouGov poll showed that the Republicans are leaking about 9% of their vote to the Democrats, and Democrats are only leaking 3% of their vote to the Republicans. So all these different claims coming in all over the shop, and the reality is it's just going to be very close. But actually, the margins and the way the electoral system is set up in the US is that the way the margins are is that actually if you get the upper end of one margin, then there is an argument that it could be not close. So although all the polls are really tight, you only need to shift it one way or the other, and one of the two will actually have a really comfortable win. There are still sort of models where one of them could romp it, and yet right in the middle it's like tight as you like. So yeah, lots still could happen. It's amazing. I don't think the October surprises, that we've seen so far, like revelations about Trump and Putin, revelations about this, revelations about that, I don't think are going to shift the needle too much. But maybe you don't need to shift it that much. I think there's still a long time, sort of 25 odd days, and a lot of media blitz. You've got Obama going out on a campaign with Bill Clinton. Obama's a pretty good rhetorician. The question is, if you live in an information bubble where you're not hearing any of that, then all you're doing is preaching to the converted. And part of the problem is for the low information voters who sit watching Fox News, for example, part of the problem for the Democrats are that, well, how do we reach those people who are just not hearing this stuff? And that's why they need to do this multimodal approach of going through, and both sides need to do this, is go into niche places on the internet or popular places on the internet, outside of the mainstream. And then you get mainstream media complaining, oh, this person's not doing any proper interviews, or this person's not being seen enough. And it's like, actually, they are being seen. They're just being seen in a lot of places that aren't you. And just because they're not on your main news network says more about the importance of news networks compared to these new avenues of information. Anyway, all of that is happening. And there's so much to talk about with regard to just polls. But I'm actually going to spend this video talking about the hurricanes, because there have been sort of two passing through. And the massive disinformation, and actually how irresponsible it is to spread disinformation that manifestly harms people. When you are spreading lies about FEMA and about the disaster response teams that are going above and beyond to help people, when you're spreading lies about them and about the funding, then I think this is deeply problematic. As Karen Piper here says, in response to this one post, which is a lie, an endless number of people on Twitter are threatening to kill FEMA workers. Who posted this? And we're going to return to Elon Musk later, but this is Elon Musk. Just received this note from a SpaceX engineer helping on the ground in North Carolina. FEMA is not merely failing to adequately help people in trouble, but is actively blocking citizens who try to help. Quote, "Hey Elon, update here on the site of Asheville, North Carolina. We have powered up 2 large operating bases for choppers to deliver goods into hands. We've deployed 300 plus Starlinks and outpour as it has saved many lives. The big issue is FEMA is actively blocking shipments and seizing goods and services locally and locking them away to state they are their own. It's very real and scary how much they have taken control to stop people helping. We are blocked now on the shipments of new Starlinks coming in until we can escort them from the fire department, but that may not be enough." And then, this is huge problems with these claims, this kind of like hearsay that Elon Musk is reposting here. And if one person pops off and shoots a National Guard member, it will be on Elon Musk. And here you get all these people talking about militias and about, activate the militia, a well-regulated militia, quoting the Constitution, time to militia up, these fascists are not in charge. What is FEMA doing with the money? Blah, blah, blah. And all these people just essentially, calling for arms to be taken up. Laura Loomer is also promoting militias. These conspiracy theories are so dangerous. So you have a really dangerous, febrile situation where people are vulnerable anyway. And this disinformation is being spread that puts people trying to help those vulnerable people themselves in danger. It's just insane. And you get the situation of the funding, and they're only getting $750 each. And of course, like I've explained to you before, that's the emergency funding to do emergency things for you as an individual. If you've got no access to money and you need to get, you need to pay for X, Y, and Z just in the immediacy of that time period, right? This is, federally mandated amount of money. And then you have these claims about, they're using money that should be going to these people to pay for immigrants and all this kind of really smashing up the truth of what's going on. And people complaining there's not enough money, etc., etc. But the people complaining there's not enough money are the same people who have stopped FEMA getting more money, right? So here's a full list of Republicans who voted against FEMA funding before Hurricane Helene hit, let alone Hurricane Milton. And so those are the House Democrats and the Senate Democrats. Huge number of Senate. Bearing in mind there's only 50 Senate Democrats. And look how many voted against FEMA funding. It's absolutely horrendous. 35 Republican senators voted against FEMA funding. 8 are up for re-election. Josh Hawley, Rick Scott, Ted Cruz, Marsha Blackburn. Anyway, all saying no to FEMA funding, and yet now they're like, FEMA, oh my goodness, we're complaining because apparently it's not got enough money. Yeah, so I think it's just really, really dangerous. Now, I was going to play you this excellent excerpt on this subject of Kamala Harris talking to Stephen Colbert, but last time I did that, I got a copyright infringement. So the Late Show is very tight on reproducing it, and even with fair use, I would have to. It would be like a 3-day appeal, and it would probably get through. But by that time, no one's going to be watching this. So just to let you know that Kamala Harris, and she's actually just given a talk. She did a town hall for Telemundo for the Hispanic TV show or Univision, and she gave a really decent whole 2.5 minutes on hurricane disinformation and the issues therewith. Alina, Habba, Trump's lawyer here, there are babies floating in the water. I mean, really?
Western North Carolina got hit really hard. And like you said, these are real people with real issues. They don't need a $750 handout for a press headline. They need help. They need water.
Nobody's giving a $750 handout for a press headline. That's literally a federally mandated amount. It's been given out before. It's $700 previously, if you remember, with Maui and the fire that was there. Like this isn't for headline. That's what they're entitled to. This kind of rhetoric is insanely disingenuous.
They don't need a $750 handout for a press headline. They need help. They need water. There are still people missing. There are babies floating in the water, and we're on podcasts. That's what the Harris team is doing. So I think what Cedric's doing is completely irresponsible.
Where did you see that report of a baby floating in the water?
We have absolutely heard there are children floating. There's missing bodies, dead bodies. We know that. There are dead people. We're up to 250.
32.
Yeah, 32. Thank you. So this is
sort of called out by Fox News here. Where have you heard dead babies floating in the water? And then to say like that, so it's just, you can't win. It's no matter what the administration does, they would be criticised for it. You know, she's not allowed to be on a podcast, and then they're criticised for, well, not doing enough television interviews for the election. Oh, but now you're on a television interview, you should be down literally wading through water and saving people's lives, Kamala Harris. That's what you should be doing. But of course, when Puerto Rico happened, Trump chucked a couple of, basically didn't give them money, and then eventually chucked them some paper towels. Absolutely terrible. When the wildfires in California happened, didn't give them money. What did Alina Habba say to that? As Trump refuses to give them money until he's told that actually there are some Republicans that live in that neck of the woods. Oh, I'll give them some money now. What happened in was it Hurricane Matthew, when he gave less than 1% of the requested funds to North Carolina, to Roy Cooper in North Carolina. Where was Alina Habba then? Nowhere. And where was Trump wading through the water? You know, the expectations are just, it's so many double standards. It blows my mind. And as a result, you get adverts like this using, you know, Trump's own staffers against him.
I worked in the Trump administration.
Never in a million years did I ever think that I'd be working in the White House with a president that didn't care about the American people.
He would suggest not giving disaster relief to states that hadn't voted for him.
I remember one time after a wildfire in California, he wouldn't send relief because it was a Democratic state. So we went as far as looking up how many votes he got in those impacted areas to show him these are people who voted for you. This isn't normal. The job of the president is to protect Americans, regardless of politics.
If Trump's elected again, there'll be no one to stop his worst instincts. You'll have yes men help him implement Project 2025's agenda. Unchecked power, no guardrails.
They will be serving one man. I am voting for Kamala Harris because she will put the safety and security of every American first, whether they voted for her or not.
So that was a couple of people who worked for him in his administration testifying there. Now, this is a pretty important clip. I mean, I could go into all of this. You get a number of these clips of this is Kamala Harris's campaign has put together a montage of all the Republicans who have fact-checked Donald Trump on his lies surrounding FEMA funding. Let's just go to the beginning of this.
And I assure you, it's going to be done, but this is one that is going to take.
Let's turn it up a bit.
We got the team. We have the equipment. The federal government is helping us well. They're embedded with us, and there's no asset out there that we have not already accessed.
I'm incredibly.
Federal government is helping us well. They have everything they need as according to that.
Appreciative of the rapid response and the cooperation from the federal team at FEMA. I've been on the phone over the weekends with the senior FEMA administrator. The team has been deployed. We had our declaration of emergency processed in an expedited way over the weekend and was finalized yesterday.
Let me ask it this way.
And then so on and so forth. So the point, you get the point, that all these Republican politicians, governors, senators have come out and said, look, and of course Democrats, look, we're getting all the assistance we need. Let's stop this disinformation. And it's just really irresponsible that disinformation is being spread by Trump publicly at rallies about the FEMA response and about the administration's response to these hurricanes. Here we have Majority Speaker in the House of Representatives, Mike Johnson, casting his opinion.
Before we leave the issue of Hurricane Helene, there's been a lot of pushback from the federal government, from federal agencies, saying that Republicans are out there spreading misinformation about FEMA funding and how it's been used for people who have come here as migrants, many of them illegally, millions of them, versus how the money is spent for disasters. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said this on Friday about conflating the two pools of funding.
I mean, it's just categorically false. It is not true. It is a false statement.
FEMA also calls this out as a rumor on their website and adds this: FEMA's disaster response efforts and individual assistance is funded through the Disaster Relief Fund, which is a dedicated fund for disaster efforts. Disaster Relief Fund money has not been diverted to other non-disaster related efforts. So what's your understanding with how FEMA money has been allocated and is spent with regard to both the border and the hurricane?
The streams of funding are different. That is not an untrue statement, of course.
It cuts there, of course, and it'd be interesting to see what he goes on to say. But, I mean, that's the important point, is these are different streams of funding. So when people are saying that the administration is using the money for immigration issues or whatever as part of the umbrella of FEMA or is using disaster relief to fund immigration efforts, then it is just not true. And indeed, there is a fact check that actually Trump did that himself. Biden administration hasn't done that, but if you're casting criticisms, then again you need to look back at the previous Trump administration.
Saying we gave your disaster relief money to people who are here undocumented is A, a lie, and it B, obviously creates a narrative that is inaccurate and dangerous.
What pot are the immigrants getting the money from?
The shelter services pot.
Oh, a different FEMA pot. But it's a FEMA pot.
Yes, but
yes or no?
What you are accusing Joe Biden of is actually the thing that Donald Trump did in 2019. Ooh, that's what happened.
I love that. It's like Janine Pirro's like, ooh. And Jessica Tarlot's like, oh, yeah, you can say that, but that's literally the case.
It's actually the thing that Donald Trump did in 2019. Ooh, that's what happened. He was the one who moved money out of the disaster relief fund.
Don't you see what's happening here?
Donald Trump.
So, and she just gets ganged up on by the other four. But of course, Jessica Tarlov is right. And these criticisms are so ill-founded. Now, you got to a point where, here, amid a fog of conspiracy theories and disinformation about Hurricane Helene and federal response, Representative Chuck Edwards, who's Republican from North Carolina, issued a letter debunking the myths, such as nobody can control the weather. So we're now starting to see Marjorie Taylor Greene and others talk about how, and when I say others, I'm going to show you a video later of a Trump supporter talking about this, that the Democrats are somehow controlling the weather to send this through that corridor, because somehow this is of benefit to the Democrats. Ridiculous. Over the past 10 days, I've been proud of how our maintained communities have come together to help one another. We have seen a level of support that is unmatched by most any other disaster nationwide, but amidst all of the support, we've also seen an uptick in untrustworthy sources trying to spark chaos by sharing hoaxes, conspiracy theories and hearsay about hurricane response efforts across our mountains. Whilst it is true the Federal Emergency Management Agency's response to Hurricane Helene has had its shortfalls, I'm here to dispel the outrageous rumours that have been circulated online. Hurricane Helene is not geo-engineered by the government to seize and access lithium deposits in Chimney Rock. 1, nobody can control the weather. 2, Charles Conrad, Director of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Southeast Regional Climate Center, has confirmed that no one has the technology or ability to geo-engineer a hurricane. Subpart 1, current geoengineering technology can serve as a large-scale intervention to mitigate the negative consequences of naturally occurring weather phenomena, but it cannot be used to create or manipulate hurricanes. And then subpart 3 to the previous one, local officials have confirmed the government is not seizing Chimney Rock. Subpart here saying there is no special meeting held in Chimney Rock between federal, state or local governments about seizing the town. Then second major part, local officials are not abandoning search and rescue efforts to bulldoze over Chimney Rock, and then it goes into other subparts about that. Then third major point, FEMA is not stopping trucks or vehicles with donations, confiscating or seizing supplies or otherwise turning away donations, a la Elon Musk. Subpart 1, FEMA does not conduct vehicle stops or handle road closures with armed guards. All road closures are managed by local law enforcement who are prioritising getting resources to their fellow community members. In other words, whatever Elon Musk is spreading is just an outright bunch of arse. And major point 4, FEMA has not diverted disaster response funding to the border or foreign aid. Subpart 1, disaster response efforts and individual assistance are funded through the Disaster Relief Fund, which is a dedicated fund for disaster efforts. And then another subpart, FEMA's non-disaster related presence at the border has always been part of a major concern to me, even before Hurricane Helene, and I will continue to condemn their deployment of blah, blah, blah. So it goes on to say, yeah, while I do have an issue with border issues, it is not part of the Disaster Relief Fund. So, and then you've got here we have a first responder testifying, giving his testimony that he's never seen help get as quickly to where it is needed as is the case here.
Orange County Emergency Management Director Kirby Saunders has been on the ground responding to many storms from Katrina to Florence to Helene.
This is the fastest I have ever seen FEMA disaster survivor assistance teams in an area.
Most recently, he spent a week in Black Mountain leading an incident management team.
You get back into town and you see a whole nother storm on social media, on X, on Facebook, of this disinformation. Sure. What was your initial reaction seeing that?
I'll be honest, it was hurtful. It was hurtful to me, to our team, to the great work that had been done in Black Mountain.
Saunders says the government is not seizing control of supplies or distribution sites.
Quite the contrary. The emergency response effort is working to solidify those sites, to support them and encourage them. They may be also having to look for sites to store the influx of supplies.
He tells me incorrect information not only hampers the response, it also has a mental health impact for survivors.
If someone can get on social media that's in an impacted area and they're looking for resources or help, and all they see is the lack of response, they're not here, this disinformation campaign, it's demoralizing to them. It sucks the hope from them.
Orange County.
So there you go. It just dispelling these myths, and these myths are it's just so egregious. Donald Trump says here, people are rightfully disgusted with the White House response, worst since Katrina. That's one of the claims we've heard from Donald Trump. This is Republican Senator Tom Tillis.
Look, I've lived in North Carolina for almost 30 years. I've seen a lot of storms come through this state. I'm actually impressed with how much attention was paid to a region that wasn't likely to have experienced the impact that they did. The unique nature of just the sheer land mass and then the unique terrain within Western North Carolina is very challenging. Are we going to score? You never score an ace on a disaster response, but the only thing more difficult than a hurricane response is what we've seen in the western part of the state. We have a certain muscle memory and experience with positioning assets out on the coast because you have time. Here, this was right out of, this is a new playbook. For anybody who thinks that any level of government, anybody here could have been prepared precisely for what we're dealing with here, clearly are clueless. They're doing a great job. They can always work harder. There's always kinks in the slinky. We're working them out behind the scenes, but I think we're all here to send a message that we're working together, and I'm pretty proud of the effort that's been done now. Will I be silent in any areas where we could do better? No. But right now, I'm out here to say that we're doing a good job, and to those who may not be on the ground who are making those assessments ought to get on the ground.
Excellent.
Boom. Mic drop. Drop the mic there, because if you're not on the ground, maybe you want to get on the ground and see what it's like. I.e., that's so. If you're a Trump supporter, you can believe Trump or Elon Musk, or you can believe the governor, Republican senator, who is actually helping to coordinate and to work and knows what's going on the ground. In this case, in North Carolina, like someone is not telling the truth. Do you think it's Trump who's sitting over there in his rally on a podium? Do you think he's got a better grip of what's going on? and Elon Musk, who's just spreading something some rando sent him? Or does Tom Tillis, does a first responder, do these people who are on the ground have a better grip, a better grasp of what's going on? Who is telling the lie? The one who's got a massive track record for lying? Possibly. Could be. Georgia Adjutant General here. Let's listen to him.
Lastly, I too want to thank the entire team. I mean, our communities, our citizens in the communities are certainly very resilient, as the governor stated. Our private partners, volunteers, I mean, obviously our local, our state, and our government, and our federal government all working together. Just a lot of hard work going on just across the state. This storm left a tremendous amount of devastation, but the response efforts by all involved have been phenomenal.
Response efforts by all involved have been phenomenal. Everyone. We've got Susan Collins, the Republican senator for Maine, one of Maine's districts, just slammed Donald Trump for his lies surrounding FEMA, cutting funds for illegal immigrants.
They stole the FEMA money just like they stole it from a bank.
They stole the FEMA money just like they stole it from a bank. Like, this is either correct or it is false. And if it's false, he needs to be absolutely called out, held accountable for lying to the public. And this is the man you want to elect. This is who you think's right for ruling the country. The guy that just, every time he opens his mouth, lies. This is an overt, absolute lie.
They stole the FEMA money just like they stole it from a bank.
They've given over $1 billion to illegal migrants that came in, and now they have no money.
That is not true. FEMA says no disaster funds were used to shelter migrants. They are two separate programs, actually, both approved and funded by Congress. But you know which president did do that? The 45th. Back in 2019, when Trump was still in office, his administration pulled $155 million from disaster relief funds to pay for migrant holding facilities. That means that...
And there you go. Projection. Oh, we did this. Let's accuse them of doing this. Yeah, but we haven't done that. Yeah, but who cares? I can just lie. Bleh. Bleh. Lies, lies, lies. Oh, sorry, you got a bit of lie on your face. Sorry about that.
So when Trump was president, he did exactly what he is accusing Biden of doing, taking cash from disaster funds to pay for migrant programs at the southern border. Now, all of this is coming after Trump accused the administration of also going out of its way to not help Republican areas, a notion that was debunked by Republican governors.
They stole the FEMA money just like they stole it from a bank.
Just absolutely incredible. But yeah, Susan Collins, it doesn't show in that clip, but Susan Collins has also slammed him for doing that kind of, spreading that kind of disinformation. Rachel Bitterkofer here says Trump promised $25 million to hurricane relief and then set up a GoFundMe so he doesn't have to use his own money, which he would never pay. So again, there's still some issues, as I reported previously, on the kind of disaster relief fund that he set up and where that money's going and who's in charge of it. Okay, let's listen to your man Trump again.
Yet they're offering people $750
for immediate needs.
For the worst, but for the worst hurricane that anybody's seen. But she shouldn't be there anyway. She should be, I would say, North Carolina is bad, is so bad. And
she was there today for 3 hours, I believe, Kamala Harris.
And yet they're offering.
So this is Laura Ingraham, right, who is Trump acolyte number one. When you're getting called out by Laura Ingraham for peddling a lie, then you probably need to watch it. Like, she should be in North Carolina. She was there today for 3 hours. All right. Damn, you got me. Just it's this kind of stuff. I just don't trust a word this guy says. Now, New York Times has released a piece. I need to look into it on Elon Musk, called Musk is going all in to elect Trump. So when we saw at the beginning of this video, Elon Musk was spreading rumors about FEMA. He is basically doing the bidding of Donald Trump. So this is what the article includes: spending $140 to $188 million on Trump's super PAC. Interestingly, a super PAC that he now uses the handle @America on Twitter, and he just took that off someone that already had that. Someone had that for some time. And so I'm going to have that. Thank you very much. I own Twitter now. Thank you very much. Anyway, Twitter's coordinating with the Trump campaign to throttle links to linked campaign documents. So that was the J.D. Vance opposition research that the Trump campaign had on J.D. Vance. It was then hacked and released, and now Twitter is throttling that. Not that they would throttle similar ones going the other direction. In fact, there's evidence that they didn't throttle such things similarly previously, but they're claiming it was doxing even though it wasn't doxing. And anyway, JD Vance, those really critical documents from Trump's campaign itself, the opposite, they were doing research on, it wasn't so much opposition research, but it's like, okay, what are the weaknesses of JD Vance if we're going to get him in as VP? So that got released, and that's then been throttled by Elon Musk on behalf of Donald Trump. Musk is rallying other billionaires and also rallying for Trump, as you can see there, jumping up and down in Butler, Pennsylvania. Musk rallying other billionaires to support Trump, and you've got the tech bros, a Peter Thiel, a David Sachs, what is it about white South Africans and support for the Republican Party and Trump, and Elon Musk, these billionaires that kind of want to take over the world. What is it? Techno-fascism, that's what it's called. Musk temporarily moving to Pennsylvania. I mean, goodness me, it's incredible. As some people say, it's election interference, but there you go. Now, on that note, Elon Musk amplifies hurricane disinformation while boosting Trump. The billionaire is using the power of his social media platform to spread falsehoods that officials say are hampering recovery efforts. And we saw one right at the beginning of the video. So this is a Politico article saying Elon Musk is using the social media network to spread election conspiracy theories about US disasters, just as online falsehoods are complicating the federal response to hurricanes Helene and Milton. It's absolutely terrible. It really is. What's this? And he's charging the victims to read it. Elon Musk is charging hurricane victims $400 for emergency internet service. So there's some. He has claimed he's giving away. I don't know if I've got this. No. So he's claiming that he's giving away Starlinks for free, but some people have done some research. It turns out that actually that's not the case, and they'll be charged automatically after a free. Basically, he's given Starlinks with a free month's worth of stuff. So one needs to be careful. You could read this both ways. It could be that's free. You've got free internet use, but after a month, you're going to be automatically charged however much it is per month, and then there are these costs involved. And so there are people calling into question his claims about providing free internet. Anyway, then you add to this that hundreds of apparent pro-Russian bot accounts on Twitter are pushing the US election misinformation and amplifying false narratives about Democratic contender Kamala Harris, a research group said on Thursday. And I shared this with you on one of my Ukraine news videos this morning or today. This is a really scary Agence France-Presse piece about the number of bots and the work they are doing in support of Donald Trump. And these are Russian bot accounts all over Twitter. When Elon Musk said he was going to clean them up, what was the claim he said? Despite the fact he had avowed, that was it, Musk pledged to, quote, defeat the spam bots or die trying. And of course, he's done neither. In fact, he has allowed them to propagate and proliferate on Twitter in order to give an advantage to Trump, because effectively the Russian bots are supporting Trump, because that is Putin's way of getting an anti-Ukraine ticket to succeed in the election in November. So these accounts are sowing disinformation. These Russian bot accounts are absolutely, I've seen them myself, are spreading disinformation about the hurricane efforts in order to sow discord and undermine the Biden and therefore Harris administration, and undermine the Harris ticket for the presidency. It is really, really egregious that basically Musk is allowing his platform to be manipulated by nefarious international state actors. Now, you then have the problem with the disinformation is it's also allowing to find purchase because it's not called out. So although we did see Fox correcting a little bit earlier, they also kind of sane wash Trump. And here's an example of sane washing.
Family SUV so much, and along the road you made the American automobile an inseparable part of the, and it was inseparable of the American dream. It was part of the American dream. But after decades and decades of
all right, so we'll keep monitoring the former president's remarks there in Detroit.
So the Detroit Economic Club speech that he gave was one of the lowest energy speeches, and it was one of the most full of absolute nonsense, to the point where Fox cut away. But they don't cut away and say, well, he's not really making a lot of sense, is he? I mean, the guy sounds absolutely bonkers. What they do is they cut away and kind of sane wash it. But Kamala HQ here says, admittedly a propaganda handle, says Fox cuts away from Trump after he spreads lies about hurricane disaster. So he's been talking about hurricane disaster relief and lying about it. So Fox don't call him out on this. Talked about his hair, praised dictators, and thanked to Project 2025 author. And they cut away to say it's a wide-ranging speech, rather than calling out his falsehoods.
All right, so we'll keep monitoring the former president's remarks there in Detroit. Taking the opportunity to talk about the storm off the top and those who are still struggling. Wide-ranging speech so far there at the...
So, as I always say, concentrate on the little things. Just look at her mouth and her eyes and her face, if you can see close enough here, as to how she reacts when she says the words wide-ranging speech. To me, she knows his speech was full of absolute garbage and he was making no sense. And you can read it in her face.
Wide-ranging speech so far there at the economic...
She's almost laughing.
Struggling.
She's got a serious face, and then this.
Wide-ranging speech so far there at the Economic Club of Detroit, John.
Family SU.
She knows it. That is sane washing. That is same washing and not calling out disinformation. In other words, Fox News is somewhat complicit in the spreading of disinformation by not doing enough to halt it and not doing enough to call it out when it happens. Now, let's get on to finish this video, the absolute nonsense that the Democrats are controlling the weather system.
What do you think happened with the hurricanes?
I think there was an upcoming storm, and then I think government set in with whatever it is that they do. I don't know all the specifics about it. I'm not an expert in cloud seeding or whatever it is that they use to magnify the storm to a higher degree to disturb a land that maybe wanted for lithium that Harris's husband is partaking in.
Which has been debunked by the governor of the senator of the affected area that she's talking about in Chimney Rock.
So they made the storm stronger, so it would hit the.
With this one.
You think that Milton, they're making it stronger?
From a 2 to immediately to a 5, like instantaneously.
You're implying that the government made a hurricane stronger to hurt its own country, the United States of America?
Correct.
And what would be the gain of that?
If like there's been people out there, if they have an Alexa, I don't know if you've heard that, and they've asked what caused Milton. Okay. You can go on there now. It's already predicted the number of deaths and the amount of it's already predicted it. On a Google, it won't do that. If you ask it about Helene, it'll tell you the government actively used seed clouding. This is before Helene even happened.
Why would a country want to have a hurricane be strong and hit its own country?
Because they want to control certain places. And if you're looking at where the hurricane's going, it's a lot of red states. If you're looking at the counties in North Carolina that were hit, there were all of them 26 out of 28 of those counties were for Trump. They're doing whatever they can because they can't rig the election.
Even control the weather?
Yes.
I don't know quite what to say. Like, I've had this before where I've stated, and goodness me, I'm probably going to annoy some young earth creationists out there. So in my other channel, in my other life, I do philosophy and have written a whole host of books on whether or not God exists, etc., etc. And I used to argue to toss with young earth creationists who believe the earth is only 6,000 years old. Until I got to a point, I remembered giving a public talk in Bournemouth once, and someone, an evangelical, got up in the audience and then hit me with the earth only being 6,000 years old, and then also the moon landings were fake, and also this, and he was in for a penny, in for a pound, and every single conspiracy theory he had, it was like, that was him, and etc., etc. And we had a big tete-a-tete, but some years after that, I said, I'm going to give up arguing with creationists because there is nothing you can say that will disabuse them of what they think are facts. And there's no amount of rational evidence that the cognitive dissonance reduction is so strong, or the motivated reasoning that they are employing. So motivated reasoning is where you are motivated to reason in a particular way because of the conclusion it gets you to. And as a result, that motivation is so strong. We can talk about mortality salience, things like this. I don't want to go off on one because this is about the politics here. But in terms of something like young earth creationism, the motivated reasoning is that, well, if you disabuse me of this, then I don't get to access heaven. And actually, I don't get to live forever in heaven in paradise. And so if I accept your version of reality and that the earth isn't 6,000 years old, then I'm possibly having to forego my access to eternal life. That's so strong. It's called mortality salience and terror management theory. So my mortality salience has such such hold over me that I cannot bring myself to even entertain the idea that the earth isn't 6,000 years old. And so therefore, whatever you say, they end up using just a whole different rubric of rationality, or it's not even, I think it's largely irrational because it's so driven by psychology that you can't argue with them. Like you're talking about two different senses of reality that are they're not even overlapping. They're so different, and you've used such different process in order to get to your conclusion that if I'm using the rationality that's involved with my process, which is kind of reality, it doesn't even touch you. We're almost talking two different languages. And so I got to a point where I'm like, do you know what? There's no point in me discussing this with you because you will simply not take on anything I'm going to say. And what I'm saying is based fully in empirical evidence, and yeah, it's evidentialism. And what you're really doing is kind of fideism and using that to eventually get you to your conclusion. And these are two different languages. So I'm not going to do that because it's a waste of my time. Anyway, the point is, when you get to someone like this, I just think, I'd love to sit down and argue to toss with them. And then you think, actually, I probably wouldn't get anywhere, even though I could easily show that she was talking absolute nonsense and that her theory is so bonkers. She's so committed to it, and she has such motivated reasoning. Like if I have to disabuse myself of this idea, then it all comes crumbling down because actually you show me this is ridiculous. Well, that means that, and it comes tumbling down like a house of cards. And then I don't get to support Trump. And then also, all this time and effort I've invested. This is kind of another element of motivated reasoning. It's a kind of sunk cost fallacy. I've sunk all of this time and effort into supporting this, and if I find that that's all a load of rubbish, then I've just wasted all that time, and I can't handle that. So I can't think that I've wasted all my time arguing about this, or I can't think that I've embarrassed myself on national TV or whatever video this is by espousing such complete and utter bunkum that I'll double down. And that element of doubling down means that you are just impervious to rational evidence against your position. And so, if I sat down with this woman, I could come equipped with all the evidence that you and I know is obviously sensible evidence that no one is controlling these hurricanes, right? And we can do that, and I can sit down and it won't touch her sides. She is speaking a different language. And there's no dictionary that will get us through that will get us to connect. So I think, they're just too far gone. And you kind of get this idea, what is it, that I've heard so many things about these kinds of claims of controlling the weather. It's like, in fact, there's one here. Is it here? Yeah, Trump had 4 years to come up with a way to control the weather. Couldn't figure out. Biden and Harris pulled it off within 3 years. Vote Harris for president. Competence matters. It's the idea that actually they're really competent and good stuff. We can control the weather. I think that's pretty amazing. Obviously, that's very tongue in cheek, but it's just insane that you would be able to give an account of controlling weather, but so bonkers that just think that you're somehow in the right. And hats off to this guy who he just repeats it like, I'm getting this right. This is what you believe. Yeah, okay. Just explaining to the viewer how nuts this woman is. But clearly there are many people in that same boat. Anyway, that's enough from me. I just wanted to talk about all this hurricane stuff because it drives me nuts, and the amount of disinformation out there is absolutely insane, and it's not being helped by Fox, and it is being exacerbated by Elon Musk. And I think that man has a lot to answer for. There's no doubt about that. Anyway, take care, guys, and I'll speak to you soon.